The biggest liar in the world has his own social site, and it's called Truth. It's time once again to revisit the meaning of truth. I'm Larry Fedoruk, and this is Later That Same Life. On each episode of my weekly podcast, a different topic, discussion, or story from our lives.
Season 16, Chapter 10.
Truth.
I've often visited this topic throughout the podcast series, the never-ending search for truth, even in those early episodes about philosophy, politics, democracy. All involve truth, the true definition. It seems like it shouldn't be that difficult. Then again, I didn't foresee that we would have to live through another 4 years of a Donald Trump presidency. But here we are. Truth is our currency, but there's a lot of forgers out there. The information markets are in a state of confusion. By the way, the fact that Trump would win a presidential election, then lose one, and then win again, is both shocking and not. Over the last decade, I have heard, as I'm sure you have, many different explanations on how a man like this could become leader of the free world. I've heard the reasoning of professors, sociologists, psychologists, historians, politicians, marketers, strategists, and even the man on the street. Some make sense, others do not. I know that it's much tougher to explain the second win than it is the first one. A lot of things happened. How far back do you want to go? You know, there was the divisive politics of Newt Gingrich, the sudden popularity of Sarah Palin, the rise of the right around the world, the basic failings of decades of liberal democracies. Yeah, all of those make sense by way of an explanation. But I've recently thrown my own theory into the mix, and I'm only half kidding here. Did Donald Trump come into power because of the popularity of The Sopranos? The Sopranos certainly changed television. The highly rated weekly mob drama ran from 1999 to 2007. So the timing is about right. Seed planted, favorable weather conditions, then germination. Famously, series creator David Chase wanted to call his story Family Guy, following a New Jersey mobster juggling running a crime family, juxtaposed against the wife and kids at home. Fox Network had just announced a comedy animated series called Family Guy, so The Sopranos was reluctantly settled upon as the title. They would have to count on word of mouth for the audience to realize that it was not some opera showdown reality show. To be clear, Tony Soprano was not a nice person. He was a criminal, stone-cold killer, a misogynist, a racist, a psychopath. How did we come to love him and cheer for him? Tony Soprano, a character so well written by Chase, so well acted by James Gandolfini. He tapped into a psychographic of the American male. The American male brought up to believe that they were the head of the family. They must be the providers. And with that should come love and respect. They chased money. They faced disappointments, both personally and professionally, and were often crippled by anxiety. That was every man. That was Tony Soprano. There was also this envy of how Tony handled his problems. I mean, we all knew the difference between right and wrong, but when Tony threw might and money at all his problems, mostly might, for many men there was a twinge of jealousy. Man, I wish I could just push my way around like that. Tony lied. He lied a lot. Deceit was just how you did business. He was an anti-hero, but he was a hero. Does Tony Soprano sound like any world leader you know? Does to me. My only hope is that he meets the same fate. You know what they say, don't stop believing. David Chase and Tony Soprano didn't make it okay to act this way. They just, and perhaps unwittingly, made it glamorous or even enviable. It was Trump that came along and made it okay. Anyway, feel free to add the Soprano theory to the list of explanations on how did we get here. Oddly, Trump only half inspired my latest fixation on truth. I was mostly inspired by a talk I recently heard from scientist, astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson. His definition of truth just gave me clarity. That's why I'm sharing it. Maybe it can also help you navigate the stormy seas of misinformation and disinformation. deGrasse Tyson theorizes that there are 3 kinds of truth. All right away you're saying, well, how can there be 3 kinds of truth? Isn't truth truth? How can you divide it up into categories? Well, like this. First, there's objective truth. These would be the irrefutable laws of physics and science.
I can't change the laws of physics.
The earth revolves around the sun. 2 plus 2 is 4, and so on. All irrefutable laws are considered irrefutable because they have been rigorously tested and observed to hold true under a wide range of conditions. Objective truth. Second is personal truth. Jesus Christ is my Savior. Muhammad is my prophet. Okay, I may disagree, but I cannot refute that that is true for you. Third, political truth. Political truth comes from statements repeated so often that we finally believe them to be true. They are often handed down through tradition and culture. So 3 kinds of truth: objective, personal, political. So immediately you can see the problem. To quote deGrasse Tyson, the thing about personal and political truths is that not everyone believes in them. They are disputable and subject to individual differences, worldviews, culture, and cognitive biases, unquote. Here's an example. In the last U.S. election, evangelicals became this huge and influential voting bloc. They repeatedly, and by their own logic, voiced support for Donald Trump. So here you had a combination of personal and political truths disguising themselves as objective truth. And many voters bought in. That's a shaky foundation. Again, personal and political truths aren't lies. They're just not objective truths.
I can't change the laws of physics.
Anyway, that's my scale. Objective, personal, political. When I hear something, I run it through that scale, and it helps me to move forward in a factual manner. What I'm seeing a lot of is people confusing their own political and personal truths as objective truths, and then combined with very strong emotions, they dismiss those who disagree. Sometimes they try and publicly humiliate them, which is so easy to do these days on social media. Or if they have the power, the disagreeers are arrested, deported, or imprisoned. So the best that I can do, I guess, is not confuse the objective, the personal, and the political. I don't think that will change the world, but at least I can do the right thing. I can feel better about myself. There's a famous saying about truth. Well, there's lots of them. But this one from 19th century German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer. All truths must pass through 3 stages. And these aren't the 3 stages I just mentioned. According to Schopenhauer, all truths first go through ridicule, then opposition, and eventually acceptance. And I'm sure they ridiculed Newton when he started to blather on about gravity. Newton, gravity schmavity. They likely opposed the Wright brothers when they wanted to fly. Hey, what's the matter, Orville? Ain't you never heard of gravity? I'm sure everything that we now accept as self-evident was at one time ridiculed and opposed. Today, a lot of what we ridicule and oppose are actually the personal and political truths. What's worse is, some of the political and personal are being accepted as objective. Man, are we in trouble. Because we also ridicule and oppose objective, irrefutable truths. Maybe we can't handle the truth.
You can't handle...
Oh, shut up. So just to go back to the original idea of objective, personal, and political truth, objective means it's about the object. Previous example of the earth revolves around the sun. The object is the earth. The sky is blue, the grass is green, groceries are expensive. These are statements about a thing, the object. They are objective and easier to correlate to reality. Subjective is the opposite. It's about the subject, or personal truth. I believe in God. I love the ocean. I like motorcycles. These are not statements about God, water, or Harleys. These are statements about you. True for you, but not objectively. Political truths? Well, they're just a crapshoot, aren't they? As I said earlier, they're often passed down through culture and tradition. And the thing is, culture and tradition are things that comfort us. Feels good to believe in it. But often they are just not true. You know, things were better back in the day when I was a kid. Were they? Is that true? Is that factual? Or is this about you, the subject? You need to drink 8 glasses of water per day to stay hydrated. Most people only use 10% of their brain. Shaving causes the hair to grow back thicker. Mice love cheese. Alcohol keeps you warm. None of these are true. We just go through our days accepting them. One of my favorite statements about truth is that truth is not learned, it is discovered. Would you agree with that? If so, the statement implies that the truth exists independent of humans, outside or despite the human understanding of things and events. It's there, we have to discover it. We do so through inquiry and observation. It can't be taught, it can't be created, or even instilled, rather unmasked, thus emphasizing the importance of exploration, experimentation, and critical thinking. I've covered critical thinking in previous podcasts, but there seems to be a sorry lack of it these days, right? Critical thinking sounds hard, but it's not that tough. You need objective analysis to form a judgment. The 3 basics of it are questioning, analyzing, and evaluating. These skills can all improve with practice. Is that true? Who said so? Why? What evidence? And so forth. Truth is discovered. That means the truth is out there. Truth or consequences. What is the contrast of truth? Well, lies, of course. Falsehoods. The one thing we've accepted in our society, generally speaking, is that the truth is good, lies are bad. Well, we nuance that a bit. You know, sometimes we say the truth hurts. I'd rather just not know. The opposite of truth is not lies, it's silence. A little white lie never hurt anyone, especially when it spares someone's feelings. But overall, truth good, lies bad. Truth good, lies bad. Is that true? Where does that come from? I guess religion. All faiths seem to wave a disapproving finger on bearing false witness. Our justice system deems perjury as a crime. Truth benefits society. Lies hurt us all. Even the fables tell us so. Pinocchio, the boy who cried wolf, the emperor's new clothes. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Man, I don't want my pants to spontaneously combust. I better tell the truth. We must deal in facts. We can't just all live in a fantasy world. Can we? Well, for example, I don't believe there's one creator, one Lord that oversees all, that there's a heaven or a hell or an afterlife, but billions do. Billions have agreed to live within this fantasy. So what? Truth is the be-all and end-all? Unless it interferes with our way of life? Truth or dare? I guess sometimes we dare. I mentioned Schopenhauer earlier. He should not be the only philosopher mentioned when we're analyzing truth. Philosophers have pondered truth and their navels for centuries, right back to Socrates.
Socrates? Hey, we know that name.
Yeah. Hey, look him up. Oh, it's under Socrates.
Oh, yeah. Socrates. The only true wisdom consists in knowing that you know nothing.
That's us, dude.
You know, truth is not to be learned but discovered. That's basically Socratic. Aristotle's concept of A equals A, which can be summed up as truth is truth. Truth is not whatever you want it to be, which goes right back to your objective versus subjective. And I think we've since learned that both can exist as long as we know the difference. One of my favorites, though, is Friedrich Nietzsche. That dude, besides having a mustache that Stalin would covet, must have had some herbal inspiration when he came up with his definition of truth. What is truth? Here's what Nietzsche said. It's a mobile army of metaphors and metonyms and anthropomorphisms. In short, a sum of human relations which have been enhanced, transposed, and embellished poetically and rhetorically, and which after long use seem firm, canonical, and obligatory to a people. Truths are illusions, about which one has forgotten that this is what they are. Metaphors which are worn out and without sensuous power. Coins that have lost their pictures and now matter only as metal, no longer as coins. Ah, yes, of course. Well, why didn't you just say so in the first place? I could break that down for you, but it was painful enough hearing it, never mind the long explanation. Quick synopsis? Nietzsche was talking about subjective and personal truth. He just didn't know it at the time. Side note, when I was in university, you could buy both of these t-shirts at the campus bookstore. One with the quote, "God is dead," Nietzsche, and the other one that I bought, "Nietzsche is dead, God." By the way, God is dead, personal truth. Nietzsche is dead, objective truth. I want to add one more thing to this truth discussion. Well, I guess more like 1.5. As we're trying to account for truth, lies, and the whys and wheres of both, like why do we lie? Why do some insist on truth? Along comes one of my favorite people, Robert Sapolsky. He is a professor at Stanford, and unique in that he is both an accomplished neuroscientist, neurosurgeon, and biologist. His latest book asserts that there is no such thing as free will. No free will within the human race. Nah, can't be, right? He's basically saying that life and decisions and moods and actions all come from biological triggers affecting different parts of the brain. We are just biological machines, states Sapolsky. Then he touches on something called the post hoc explanation. What is that? Well, that's a human trying to recount the events of something that may have just happened. Biologically, the brain is not only trying to recount what happened, but it begins to automatically search for the reasons, the why this thing just happened. And then it includes them as part of the recount. That is a post hoc explanation. Let's say you witness a car crash, and you're telling the police what you saw. Yeah, that guy just went through the red light. He was like in a hurry or not paying attention or something, and he smashed right into that guy pulling into the intersection. You know, well, hold on. How do you know that guy was in a hurry or not paying attention? You don't. Yet that probably went into the police report. It became part of the story, a part that is not necessarily true. How much of that has happened over the years? You know, as history is told, as stories are written, even today as the news is on, how much of it is a post hoc pondering? Maybe we lie biologically. I don't know that. I'm still trying to wrap my head around this. You know, how free will, or a lack of it, plays into our ability to tell truth or to lie. Hey, and don't you just love when somebody starts a sentence with, well, you know, to tell you the truth, as opposed to what? The last 15 years that I've known you, it's this time that you're finally being truthful? But to tell you the truth, there are days when I just give up on it. Truth. It's so hard. Reality bites. I don't care anymore. Just tune in the fake news. You know, the fake TV that we call reality shows? Only Coca-Cola is the real thing. It's not a lie if you really believe it.
Just remember, it's not a lie if you believe it.
Those are hard days. And then the next day, I guess my brain gets biologically rewired, and I'm into it again. You know, writing a podcast about it. The Neil deGrasse Tyson model really helps me out. 3 kinds of truth: objective, personal, political. Also this from Khalil Gibran. I'm paraphrasing slightly. Much of what we believe is like a window pane. We see the truth through it, but it also divides us from the truth.
Later That Same Life is written, voiced, and produced by Larry Fedoruk. LarryFedoruk37 at gmail.com. Subscribe to Larry's podcast YouTube channel. Get automatic notifications with each new episode.
You can't handle.
Oh, shut up.